Welcome to this week's presentation of Zambia's Premier Analysis Show. Emmanuel Zitetembo is the name. It happens to be the last show for the month of April 2018. As we go into May, a lot of football, a lot of reaction, a lot of things to feast our, daggers on. This past weekend proved to be interesting for some, painful for some, joyful for some. We recorded the first hat-trick of the 2018 season. That was scored by Chris Kope-Mugalu of Lusaka Dynamos, as Lusaka Dynamos ramped to a 4-0 victory. It was points shared between Kwazi and Red Arrows. The same can be said about the fixture that saw Green Buffaloes take on Forest Rangers. Good evening, my name is Emmanuel Zitetembo. Let's just bring up to speed with our feature match for this week. It took us to the Sunset Stadium as rivalries were renewed between the teams that finished first and second in last year's MTN FAR Super League. So it was Zanaco Football Club versus Zesco United in George Lwandamina's first game after returning to Zesco United. Let's have a look at the selections, shall we? So it was Numba Mamba versus Big George Chicken Lwandamina. So for Zesco United, the away team in orange went for a 4-2-3-1 with Lazarus Kambole leading the attack. John Chingand was deployed in the number 10 row, while Jesse Were and Winston Kalengo were given rows wide. Faith was retained in the back four of Faxon Kapumbu, David Owino Diambo, Marcel Kalonda, and Simon Silumba. In terms of Zanaco Football Club, their home team, they went for a 4-4-2 diamond formation with Kennedy Msonda and Chitiam Susu leading the line, Isaac Chancer playing in the hall, and Suleiman and Ernest Mbewe were given roles in the wide areas. Richard Kasonde was actually playing defensive midfielder, and it was there. Now, what turns out to be a usual defensive configuration of Rusike, Zio Tembo, George Chilufya, and Taonga Wembia. Helping me with this week's presentation is Muhammad Fati and Vespa Janza. First things first, in terms of that lineup for Zanaco, my first question is Tafadzwa Rusike at left back. What were the implications even before we get into the tactical details of this game?
I think it's not playing in his right position. I think he's a player with very good qualifications in the midfield, but when you put him in the defense, it can't balance.
You've always been a proponent of your players, wherever you've gone, to play 2-3 positions. What is the big deal about wanting or needing Tafadzwa Rusike play that left back row?
No, we don't know what's happening at Zanaco. Maybe the coach, the left back is not okay, so he make a replacement. So this is a decision for technical bench, and also look at the player. If he's gonna do it, he can do it in this position or not. But most of the players at Zanaco, I can say the good experience, because the two teams also good experience, but Zanaco also good experience, the players. So most of the players at Zanaco, they can play in 2-3 positions. There's no problem.
I don't know. Let me ask you an open-ended question. What were your feelings about the two selections?
I think if you look at the way Zanaco of late, the way they are conceding the goals, I think if you look at of late, defensive-wise, to the left back, they've been having problems. I think no wonder you could see Numba trying to remove a midfielder and maybe introducing him into defense, and which I think if you look at the way they played with Zesco, it delayed them even to reach near the goal, because if you look at Zesco's organization in the midfield, I think it was difficult for them, I think, even to penetrate. And if you look at most of the Zanaco games they play, they always use their wings. But on this game, they wanted to try and maybe go through on the middle where Zesco United is always, I think, good.
All right, let's start with our usual tradition. Start dissecting the game from the team that, well, dominated the game. Let's start off with Zesco United. Timia Zico playing Zanaco. Let's look at Zesco United in attack and see what they were actually trying to do as they tried to get goals. So Zesco United were basically doing this. So they would actually play out and get the ball into central midfield. But look at the tactical behavior of shirt number 10 on the ball, Winston Kalengo. And right there, as you can see, he makes that arrow run inside the central areas. And if you look at Lazarus Kambole, the shirt number 7, he actually runs into the space vacated by Winston Kalengo. Now, Winston Kalengo then becomes a dangerous player coming from deep and running into the box. Now, if you know the tactical behavior of JJ Were, the shirt number 25, he's going to make that similar run right there. And yes, Zesco United, especially in the first half, enjoyed playing against Zanaco this way because they were able to dominate proceedings from the first whistle up to the 45th minute.
Yeah, because if you look the way we look at the shape on the picture, the two strikers, they are stretching the defense for Zanaco, Lazarus and Jesewere. Within this time, the break, the midfield, they try to break the heart for the team and they try to attack. They will be facing face to face to the goal. At the same time, after they open, when the defense stretch the defense for Zanaco, when he come close to the 18 area, the defense try to close again. So when they try to close again, these two, they become free. Now the deep pass for Jesewere and the deep pass for Lazarus, or play to the wing, and these two, they go inside the box free. So it's very difficult for Zanaco defense to balance in that situation. The only way is the midfield for Zanaco. They're supposed to build the block inside, even if the back four they stretch, but the defense, the midfield, they have to close.
No that diamond. Can you close using a diamond?
No, can't close using the diamond in this situation.
So I'm actually, now what Zesco is actually doing is actually forcing Zanaco, if they are going to respond effectively, to actually make their 4-4-2 a ball-shaped one and get rid of the diamond Vespa.
Yeah, of course, that's what Chicken George, I'm sure, wanted his players to be doing. I think if you look at the way the team has changed from the time I think he came back in the country Zita and joined the Zesco. If you look at his organization, especially when they are attacking, most of the times Kambolayes will be there to try and maybe bring confusion there in the defense between the Zanaco defense 4-5 there on the mid on the mid. But if you look at the way they were dropping, Winston coming to get the balls, and you could see Kambole also trying to go back the two defenders and allow Wede also to maybe also make his a movement which could allow them even to reach on the goal. I think which is good for Zesco Zite. I think if you looked at their attack, even the Zanaco game which they won 1-0, I think they could have even scored or more than that, because their attack through Winston, the way he was coming, trying to drop in the midfield, and the backup which was also coming from the midfielders. You could see Mtonga also trying to join in, which he always does, and helping Zesco into attack. Yeah,
now right there, I'm actually thinking, because of what Lazarus Kambole is doing, running wide, and Jesse Were running central, and Winston Kalengo running into the center, and the Zanaco players are probably
first this where he open.
Yes.
And when
then he runs to the middle.
When Kalengo come, Kalingo come with the other player from the midfield, so they become 2v1 against the defensive midfield for Zanaco. So the only way for you to control this situation is to build the angle chain from the midfield, going to like this. You direct the opposition to one side of the ground, and now to try to push them.
Now, my question right there,
but you can't chase them.
Yes,
you are
I'm thinking you're playing a diamond one, and number two, you're almost doing a man marking shift. So right there, you have Isaac Chancer trying to go and press the two defensive midfielders for Zesco United. Of course, he's losing that battle. Enes Mbewe is also losing that battle because he's running inside and he's leaving Kalengo free. And Taunga Wembe is thinking whether he should sit or go forward, and everyone is doing a man-marking shift. And because of this dynamic movement, I think Zanaco in the first half really struggled. But how do you deal with runners from inside? Should you maintain that, and the player should say, I am defending in this zone, I remain in this zone, and I make who comes in this zone, or you track your runner?
No, this is now the communication between the team, because now the player they're shifting position, they're changing position. So if the player change position, if you can't mark man to man. If you mark man to man, you create a gap. So you have to play zone. You have to defend zone. Now I'm shifting. I'm marking you. Now you start moving. I communicate with my teammate in the same line to take you, because otherwise, who's responsible about the player? You'll be free like this.
Now, that's a big problem. How do you deal with players that are cutting in Vespa? And for the Zanaco players, this was going to go against what they do week in, week out. Yeah. How do you mark players that are switching positions? And perhaps that was the examination they were sitting for this past weekend.
Yeah, of course, it's not easy to mark players who are always busy. You know, it's like marking Messi, who is always on his run. And if you look at Zesco, the way they came in Zanaco's game, I think I remember the time I was watching Zesco playing Lusaka Dynamos with Rwandamina, when he was even telling me that no, anyway, I've seen one or two mistakes which I think I need to correct. And when I saw it, I saw a lot of improvement in Zesco's attack. Even the midfielders, the way they were also trying to join in Zesco's attack. But like you have said, for Zanaco, for them to contain even a team which was like exchanging, trying to crisscross, especially with the strikers, it's not easy to mark them, because you would always sometimes want to follow him to where he's going, and you leave a gap, which like it happened to Zanaco. They were almost scored in 2 minutes when the game started, and Zesco started pressing to the same number 3 guy who was, I think, making mistakes from the time the game started, because they saw it. Even 2 minutes, they almost scored from his line. And I think he was trying to follow the person he was marking, because Wele was also trying, like drawing, coming inside, not knowing that they are trying to use the same position where the number 3 was coming out.
Now I'm just thinking, and because you've got Tafadzo Arusike, and that's why I was asking the question at the top of the show. You play him as a fullback, and he has to deal with Jesse Were, who's running inside, and the trouble is that those gaps are being left. Zanaco surely can't afford to play like that. If you're going to man-mark like that and leave gaps like that, how many football matches are you going to win? But ultimately, should Zanaco consider tweaking their traditional formation? Because they love to play with the Diamond 4-4-2. That's, I think, the way Numba prefers to play football. But against other opponents, he's hard to change. Last year in Continental Club competition, we saw him play a 4-2-3-1. And when they were beaten against Raja Casablanca, he went 3-4-3. So is this the sign that Numba Mamba has to consider other ways of playing away from the Diamond 4-4-2?
No, you see, he knows the capacity for each player, and he knows the capability for each player. Yeah, and most of them do good. the good experience. So it's not a big issue for him changing the formation. And for me, he's a good coach. He tried the past 3 years with Zanaco, and I think he have a good run with the team.
Same question, Vesper. Should he consider tweaking the formation a bit? Especially when he's playing teams like Raja, like Zesco, world-old teams tactically.
Yeah, for me, Zite, I think I've seen him changing his formation for some time. I think, and I've seen him losing some players whom I think he thought he could stay with them for some time, and they've helped him even to be where he is. Like Fati has said that he has stayed there for some time, for almost 3 years, and he has been doing fine. And I think if he can move on with the system, which I think made him to be where he is, I think he can still maintain his winning formula with his team. But of late, he has continued, I think, with his trying to see who can he fit in some of the positions, which I think some players are failing to maybe catch up with some new players who have come in. Because I think Zanaco, if you've seen also, yes, they did well last season, but coming in on this season, they saw the other players who were doing fine with them. And I think for Numba also, he's also trying to settle down with some of the players whom I think he's also trying to see if he can move on with them.
All right, let's have a look at Zanaco Football Club in attack, the home team, and see the attacking plan in that game where they were playing a very well-oiled Zesco United side. So essentially, this is what Zanaco were doing. So with their initial attacking plan, they were trying to get Ernest Mbewe and Suleiman, the winger, to actually run in those wide areas. But you'd quickly see Isaac Chance as the number 30 in the middle of your screen, actually running, hoping to collect the second ball. But the downside for that, Muhammad Fati, is that probably George Grandamina factored that, and look at who Isaac Chansa is fighting for the second ball with. Antonio Kumuge and Kondwani Mtenga, who would actually maintain the low block you're talking about. So right there, when Enes Mbewe doesn't win his battle with Faxon Kapumbu, once Suleiman doesn't win his battle with Silimba, Zanaco are hooking the ball into Kennedy Musonda and Chitia Msusu and trying to see if Isaac Chance is going to get the second ball and try to score. What's your comment?
I think, like what we said, the midfield, it was a bit complicated for Zanaco because the number of the players, the one that are coming, the waving in the final third, it's more than the midfield of Zanaco. This is why there was Zesco was very fast to shift to transfer from the defense to attack. So the issue is like what I told you: defensive midfield, one player, and two coming from the midfield for Zesco. So which one is gonna mark? Because 2v1, obviously, it was difficult for him.
How would you have loved that is remedied if you were Numba Mamba, you were in that position? How do you break that trend?
Yeah, in 4-4-2 diamond shape, that is now the timing for the second player to drop now to the next to the defensive midfield to start build the block from two players front of the back four. So now the timing for the player also it depends about when they're attacking, how they build the backup in case if there is a breakdown in the attack, how they build the backup like this. They don't have this situation.
Now it's a question of pressing right there. When do you begin to press? You hook the ball into the 18, you lose the second ball. Zesco, Kondon Mtonga and Antonio Kumuge win the ball. But most importantly in this game, Vesper, is that Antonio Kumuge and Kondon Mtonga actually exchanging passes and are drawing Isaac Chansa into that one. And once Isaac Chansa is eliminated, plus the two other strikers, essentially the likes of John Chingandu, Kalengo and Jesse Were have got a picnic to actually deal with in terms of space. They can do whatever they want.
Yeah, of course, Zita, when you are given a space and a lot of room for you to maneuver, like it was, look at Isaac Chansa with a lot of experience most of the times. I think he has helped Zanaco into attack most of the times. But on this game, I think he was most of the time he would find himself marking Kondwani in the midfield. And if you see of late Zanaco's games, they want to attack. Even when they are into attack, they use their back wingers to at least support even the midfield and the strikers. But on Zesco's game, I think Rwandamina was very clever to see that if one of the defenders try to move, then he leaves well there and who is dangerous. And you look at Kalengo, the other side also, who is dangerous also. And they couldn't allow their defensive wingers to overlap and maybe beef up the striking force, which I think they had more problems on that one.
All right, let's now have a look at Zesco United's defensive configuration. And as we discuss Zesco United's defensive configuration, we need to take cognizance of the fact that George Rwandamina actually made a substitution in that game, and he brought off JJ Were and brought on Mwape Mwelo. Now, in discussing Zesco United's defensive configuration, you actually notice that the two defensive midfielders, that's shirt number 8, Anton Akumuge and Kondone Mtonga, would actually come and screen very well and create a cover shadow for shirt number 28, Chitia Msusu, and the shirt number 9 there, Kennedy Msonda. And once Zanaco have the ball with the back line there, look at the options for passing. You see Isaac Chansa coming short, but right there, because of the mild pressure that's being applied by Lazarus Kambole and Jesse Were in the central areas, and John Chingandu picking up, of course, Rusike there in midfield because of the substitution that Numba also made. He brought on the shirt number 6, Peter Jacob Banda, to actually play that right back position, and Taonga Wembia went to the left back position. I think it was always going to be tough. Again, you're trying to win the second ball. Again, you're trying to win a player that's aerial battle with players that are very good at the aerial battles. You've worked with Marcel Kalonda. And if you look at David Owino Diambo, Zesco United, it's if it goes beyond those two defensive midfielders who are towers, those two central defenders can probably win an aerial battle against Chitia Msusu and Kennedy Msonda, with due respect.
Yeah, you see, Zesco, in this game, they know they are playing also a champion. They are not playing a small team. Zanaco is a big team. So when they start with 2 defensive midfield, it means they start with 6 defender. So this is why he just depend about the counter, or it depend about to take chance to finish the game with 1. This is why the game is finished 1-0, because with that formation, you can't score more than 1 goal. I know there is chances, but to finish the game not more than 1 goal, because usually this formation 4-2-3-1, it's defensive formation. When you go to the midfield, you have to change it from defensive formation to attacking formation. So you have to change to 4-1-4-1 or 4-1-3-2. Like this, you remain with 1 player, defensive midfield, then the other player, he shift to the midfield to become attacking midfield, then one from the midfield he shift to be another striker, 2 strikers. So that transition, if it's not there, you keep pushing yourself with 4 players to finish the game. So this is why your chance to score is maybe it's 1-0. So it's a good formation, but defensive formation, you won't concede. It's very difficult for any team to concede if you have 2 good defensive midfield. But also, if the opposition, they are very good, they have a dribbler and a very good player, they can open wide and shift position, I'm telling you, they can give you a big problem because one deep pass it can beat the midfield for Zesco.
Now, talking about the issue of deep pass, and maybe we can bring that back on screen. Let's just look at Zesco's defensive configuration again, and now also begin to talk about the tactical behavior of the two center forwards for Zanaco, the number 9 and the number 28 there, playing on the chest of the two central defenders. So, right there, you're talking about deep pass. Yes, granted, it may go, but if you're playing on the chest of the central defender and one player who you've worked with, Marcel Kalonda, is going to win that battle.
Marcel, he knows this because at Warriors, we train our strikers to shift position. So he knows how to, when the player starts shifting position, he knows how to maintain the zone. This is why it's very difficult to cheat him. He's a very good player, also very intelligent. So in that situation, it was difficult for Zesco to break because also the front line for Zesco, they're not doing too much efforts to stretch the back four for the strike force for Zanaco. They didn't make an effort to stretch the back four for Zesco. Are you getting me? Plus the two center midfielder, the two defensive midfield for Zesco. It's difficult.
They were able to defend in their zone. Now, Vesper, let me just bring you in there. Right there. I'm just thinking if you're Zanaco now, and you look at the tactical reaction, is that to sort out the problem that Lazarus Kambole is causing on the left-hand side, okay, he brings on Peter Jacob Banda and takes Taonga Wembia to the other side, hoping that Peter Jacob Banda is actually going to do better against Lazarus Kambole. But again, it's about chasing a player who's making you run away from your natural defensive position. What do you make of the two reactions? Because both coaches actually made those substitutions. Let's start with the Zanaco one first. Was that the change that was required? Change of personnel?
I think that's where he made a mistake, Zita, because at the beginning, I think he could have started with like the way he made those changes. Though sometimes you never know, Zita, you think maybe the way I've made the team, it's okay for this player who is been playing in the midfield, maybe to introduce him into defense. But I'm sure for him even to change Taonga Wemba to take him to the other side, I think George Rwandamina is a very experienced coach. I think he saw that there is a problem there in defense for them to shift positions from the other side. The other guy goes to where there was a lot of attack. I think Zesco most of their attacks was coming from the right side. And I think when he saw it, he knew that I think they can even get another goal through the way Numba Mwamba tried to change and maybe try to maybe be comfortable with the way he made some changes. But if you look at Zesco bringing in another midfielder who he thought maybe he could also keep the ball, because if you look at it, they were leading, not very comfortable, but at least to have a player who can maybe run with the ball. You know, Mwape, most of the time he likes running with the ball, even in the wings, to keep at least the ball, to allow his friends to join him, and maybe even allow them to reach on the goal as a team, Zite.
All right, so now let's talk about the substitution that George Rwandamina made in the first half. He brought off Jesse Were and brought on Mwape Mwelwa. And just before that, we could hear George Rwandamina asking Jesse Were to come deep, like Kalengo was doing, to actually come and collect the ball and be part of the attack and be that fifth man. And I think after 5 or 10 minutes, he called him off. Now, I'm just thinking, Jesse Were, high and wide striker. He's going to actually create problems. But again, when Zanaco start coming and they're using the wide areas, you probably can't have the luxury of him not dropping and helping in terms of the job defensively. So how should we interpret that substitution by George Rwandamina? Jesse Were, you have to come up and down like the way what Mwape Mwelwa began to do when he came in. And I ask you this question because I remember you seated on this chair. You love the fact that Jesse Were could get the ball from deep and break the lines using one run and create a lot of anarchy for opponents.
Yeah, that's most of the goal the one he scored. He did this. He's a very sharp player. He open wide. He hold when the ball drop. He just follow the ball, use the speed, pull the team to the final third, and now try to finish the ball, or he pass the ball to the other second striker and finish the game.
Does he need to drop?
He
And help?
Yeah, he has to.
He has to.
When he drop to help in the defense, this is the time now when Zesco win the ball, he open wide. He didn't take the ball. He just open wide. Unless there is a gap in the defense, Zesco, they always give him deep pass, and he use his speed now to push up to the final third, and the team follow. That's all.
Let's discuss the Mwape Mwelwa effect in further detail because he comes onto the pitch, but here's now how Zesco United begin to play without Jesse Were in the picture. Now, remember Zesco are playing out, and because of that expansive attack, you have a situation where Zanaco actually have 4 players in attack, and of course Tafadzwa Rusike actually running to try to profit from the second ball again, and he's right there next to the number 18 for Zesco United, Kondwani Mtonga. But now look at the way Zesco is now forming lines of pass to further dominate this game. So the 2 central strikers are beaten by the 4 players in the central defensive zone. That's David Owino, Diambo, Marcel Kalonda, Kondwani Mtonga, and Anton Akumuge. But look at where the shit number 22 is. He's actually coming shorter. Now, when he comes short, he creates a gap between the lines, between the anchorman and the 2 central defenders. That's a little bit more space now for Lazarus Kambole and John Chingandu to actually play in, because you'd actually see John Chingandu again not playing on the line, but actually coming inside. What is your comment about that tactical behavior by Zesco?
That's good, because now the modern football, the striker is not sleeping with the back 4 line. Doesn't sleep with the back 4. He always come to the midfield like this. He can manage to skip from his marker and receive the ball, or he skip to the midfield like this. He be out and immediately the ball drop to the space. He can run. But now the idea for the striker to remain in the back 4 line, that's old tactic. Is not an issue.
Okay, what would you say was the biggest lesson? Because for Zesco United, again, they had a lot of chances to actually counter-attack in the second half, and they created a myriad of opportunities, missed a lot. I'm sure George Londamina will be pulling out his hair that they were only able to score 1. What would you say is the biggest lesson for Zesco and Zanaco in this game? More so that both of them want to win the league title, obviously.
Yeah, of course, Zesco, if you look at the way they are organized, it's a team which not only winning the league, but they also want to win the Africa Cup. It's a team which is organized, and if you look at the players and the tactical discipline itself, I think it shows that it's a team which wants to achieve something. And if you look at Zanaco,
is it a mark of a champion?
Yes.
In one word?
Yeah.
Based on this game, Zesco, they're already top of the table. Do they look like they're going to defend their crown? Or is it too early to tell?
No, it's too early to tell.
Too early to tell. I have got great difficulty understanding what Muhammad Fati said, because in my opinion, I saw a champion in the making. But anyway, we'll see if it's too early for me to say that as well. That was our analysis of Zesco United visiting Zanaco at the Sunset Stadium.